Okay, so in the second prize auction, we had this amazing result that it is actually optimal for each player to bid their own true valuation for the item. And this is true regardless of what everybody else is doing. And hence, you do not need to actually think about what the other players are doing, right? So now we are going to be looking at a couple of examples where this result actually does not hold true, where in fact you need to actually not necessarily bid your own true valuation for the item, and you need to think seriously about what the other players are going to do when you're thinking about how you should bid, right? So the first such example that we'll see is first price auction. So recall that in the first price auction, what you have is that you're going to give the item to the player who has the highest bid, and that player has to actually pay their own bid, right? So this is different from the second price auction, where the player, if they win, is not going to play their own bid, but is going to pay the second highest bid. Okay. So in first price auction, we'll find that what actually the players have to do is they have to reason about the behavior of the other competing buyers in order to arrive at an optimal choice for their own bid. Okay. So let's first formulate this in a game theoretic way in which we have done the second price auction. So as before, the players are the different bidders. And similarly, the strategy of each player is to bid amount BI, which will be a function of the true value of the player I for the object, which is VI, right? So what are the payoffs? So if BI is not the winning bid, then the payoff as before is 0, right? But if BI is the winning bid, then now the payoff is VI minus BI. So notice that earlier you had that if BI was the winning bid, the payoff was VI minus BJ, where BJ was the second highest bid. But here the payoff is VI minus BI, which is the bid that the player is offering, right? So here we'll see that if the player wins, then the amount that the player has to pay depends on the amount that the player paid, right? So this is different from the second price auction. Okay, so one thing to note is that here bidding one's true value is no longer a dominant strategy, right? So we'll see this mathematically as well, but notice how we can see it intuitively. So suppose that you had actually gone ahead and bid your own true value, right? So what would that tell you about the payoff, right? In case you are losing, then the payoff is clearly 0, right? But here, if you were bidding your true value and you were winning, then the payoff is also 0, right? To see why this is the case, imagine that you had bid actually BI equal to VI, right? If you had bid VI equal to VI and you had won, then the payoff is going to be VI minus BI, but you had bid BI equal to VI. And so therefore your payoff is VI minus VI, which is 0, right? So here, doesn't matter if you win or lose, if you bid your own true valuation, your payoff is always going to be 0, right? In contrast, if you had actually deviated and bid a slightly lower value compared to your true valuation, in that case, if you had won, then you would have got a positive payoff, right? Now you have to kind of like take into account that, you may not necessarily win. So you might want to think in terms of expected payoff. But in that case, your expected payoff is going to be positive if you actually bid a slightly lower value, right? So the key question is going to be how low a value do you want to bid, right? Rather than bidding your own true valuation, how much you are going to do. So in thinking about how much to actually reduce your bid below your true valuation, you have to think about two different factors, right? So one factor is if you bid only a little bit, then in that case, even if you win, you are not going to be getting a very large payoff, right? So remember, the payoff if you win is VI minus BI. So if BI is very close to VI, even if you win, then the payoff is not going to be huge, right? So you want to probably, this would suggest that you want to have BI as low as possible, right? But here's the problem. If you reduce BI too much, then your chances of winning actually goes down, right? So yes, if you win, you are going to win a lot, but your chances of winning are actually going to go down. And hence, therefore, you are in a situation where, you may win a large amount, but with a very low probability, right? So then again, your expected payoff is going to go down, right? So these are the two opposing forces that one has to consider when thinking about how much to actually lower down the bid, right? So this is actually a complex problem, right? We'll solve a particular version of this problem mathematically, right? But some of the results we can already kind of like state. So one result is that it has to depend on your knowledge of what the other bidders are doing and what is their distribution of possible values, right? So this is in contrast to the result that we saw in second price auction, where you don't have to think at all about what the other players are going to do, right? Intuitively, one thing that you might expect is that if you have got many competing bidders, then you would want to bid a higher amount in order to at least still have a positive chance of winning. as compared to the case where you have got only a few competing bidders, right? If you have got very few competing bidders, then you might think that there is a large enough difference between yours and the next highest possible value, then you might want to bid a lower amount, right? And if you have a large possible pool of other bidders, then the highest competing bid is likely to be larger compared to a situation where you have got a small pool of other bidders, right? So these are some things which are intuitive, but we'll actually kind of like also showcase this mathematically by solving a particular case of this first prize auction, right? So that's going to come up later this week. Okay, let's think about some other possible auctions. So another famous auction is what is known as all pay auction, right? So what is the rule here? So again, as before, each bidder is going to submit a bid. As before, the highest bidder is going to receive the item. And the main difference compared to first prize and second prize auction is that here, doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you still have to pay your bid, right? So even the losers actually end up going to pay whatever they have bid, right? Now, you might think this is very weird in the sense that, how come the losers have to pay because they don't get the object, right? But all pay auctions are motivated by some very practical aspects that people see, right? So imagine that you have a situation where you have got political lobbying, right? So different competing entities are trying to lobby for policy to be passed or not. In this case, you will have only one outcome, either the policy passes or not, but everybody is going to still end up paying the amount that they have incurred to try and lobby for their positions, right? Another example might be in terms of like political campaigning, right? So in the end, there's only going to be one party who is going to win that particular seat, but everybody has to kind of like, spend some expenditure in campaigning. And if you lose, you still have to pay that expenditure, right? It's not that, you kind of like have to pay zero if you lose, right? This kind of issues also come up whenever people are thinking of how to design contests. So you have got this R&D contest where you have got different teams trying to kind of like come up with some new technology, for example, right? So all of the different entities which are competing would perhaps end up spending money on their R&D team and all the labs and all of those things, but probably there's going to be only one winner, right? So if you're the winner, you get the item, right? So you have your valuation VI minus BI, which is BI is the price. But even if you lose the item, right? Even if you do not win, so even then, in that case, the payoff is no longer zero, but the payoff is minus BI, right? So you can think about these examples and think about why this makes sense, right? So this is the definition. So as the players and the strategies are same as before, it's just that the payoff changes. So the change compared to first prize auction is that if BI is not the winning bid, then the payoff is not zero, but minus BI, right? Okay. So what are the main results here? So actually the main intuitions from the first prize auctions carried through, right? In general, everybody would want to kind of like bid below one's true value, right? Why? Because again, if you just bid your own true value, you are going to get either zero if you win, right? Or you're going to get a negative amount, right? So it doesn't make sense to kind of like bid your own value, right? Because then you're going to get a negative amount. So what you want to do is perhaps actually bid slightly below your true value. And in that case, you have to balance the payoff again between bidding high, which would increase your probability of winning, or you can like think about bidding low, in which case you are going to decrease the expenditure if you are going to lose, right? So if you bid a low amount, this minus BI is also going to be low, and it would also increase the payoff if you win, right? So the fact that everyone pays here in this auction means that compared to a first prize auction, intuitively you would expect that bids are typically shaded much lower compared to a first prize auction, right? So these are again some of the intuitive findings. We'll see later on that at least in the first prize auction case, we are going to show how you can mathematically model and based on some particular assumptions, how you can actually figure out what should be your optimal bid as well, right? So that's coming up later in the week.